Erik, there's word around town that the Suns are in need of a guard.
You make a good point. Psychos and sickos unite for a true Friday edition of PHNX Suns. I'm Erik, that's Stephen. We got Noah behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. We have got a lot on tap for you all today. And of course, by you all, I mean the most important people here. Everybody in the chat. O. Martinez, Michael Evans, Braden Rugel, my dad. What's up, Dad? Suns Digest, Nathan Cook, and Russell Smith. Everybody filing in here on a Friday, a free agent Friday. We're going to be talking about point guards the Phoenix Suns could target this offseason. We've got 4 names we want to highlight for you, and then we will do some quick hitters on some other notable names that will be a free agent this summer, but we also have some housekeeping. And before we get to that, Steven, how are you doing?
Doing great. We are getting close to the finals. We're also getting close to deadlines for the Suns in terms of decisions that need to be made and the implications that stem from it. So it's an anxious time, especially considering when the Suns aren't playing for different reasons. But the clock is ticking.
Yeah, there is a clock that's ticking.
It's also almost June.
It is
which
also
insane.
Almost June, and the Suns still don't have a head coach. Now, I talked about that for the first time ever from my home studio this morning in a video that's up on phnxsports.com. Well, not .com. Jeez. Go phnx.com and on YouTube here. What am I talking about? It is a Friday. But check that out. I talk about how weird it is that there are 6 finalists moving on from 9 in the second round and what there is to kind of feel about that. And of course, we have so much more over at PHNX Sports. Plus, at gophnx.com, it's our last day to become a diehard for just $36.
An extension was given, right?
Yeah, an extension was given due to popular demand. We actually gave away a diehard membership for free during PHNX Sun Devils earlier today from a current diehard who wanted to buy it because it was such a good deal for somebody who had not yet become a diehard. So you could do that today, $36. The start of summer intro offer includes a free t-shirt, access to our diehard Discord, ad-free experience on our website, all of Gerald's articles that are usually locked to diehards only, exclusive audio and video content, plus so much more. Again, go phnx.com/join. Also want to tease, we have a big announcement at the end of the show, so you want to stay tuned for that as there are some things shifting around here. We want to let everybody know what's going on. But before we get there, Steven, free agent point guards, would you say this is a deep class?
Depends on what you're looking for.
What would you say it's deep in?
It's deep in reserve level guards.
Okay.
But starting caliber point guards, most of those guys are either they either have team options or they're restricted. So makes it tough to navigate those waters. But if you're looking for a reserve type of guard, complementary type of pieces, there's a robust little market for that right now.
Do you feel like starting point guard is something that the Suns really need this offseason? Like, where would you rank it? I know we did a tier a couple weeks ago, but I forget where we landed. Where would you rank starting guard and reserve guard on needs for the Suns this offseason?
Well, that's the gray area. It remains to be seen because I'm waiting to see what happens with the coaching search for one and also what that entails for Kevin Durant. Because if Durant is on the team, I think a need for a point guard is less because Devin Booker can facilitate a lot of those duties. Obviously, Durant does so as well in ways unique to his game. So the need for a starting point guard is just a little different versus if it's a Booker-led rendition just through my eye.
Yeah. There are some names I think would fit for both a team with Kevin Durant and a team without Kevin Durant. I think as we've normally done in this offseason, we're under the premise that KD will not be on the team next year, so we put a little bit more school of thought into the how would they fit with just a Booker-centric offense. Now, I wanted to highlight two names, and I think they're two names that people are going to have very mixed opinions on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is best case scenario for the Suns to get either of these two players, but I do find them intriguing, especially at this point in their career.
We probably need to give just a quick note. The fact that we already spoke about Chris Paul.
Yes, Chris Paul. And we'll speak about him a little bit. He'll be in the others category when we talk about some other notable names. But a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we did a whole episode talking about a potential Chris Paul reunion with Devin Booker and the Suns. You can find that. Last week on Free Agent Friday, we talked about centers. So let's dive into point guards. The first name that I wanted to highlight is quite the experience. He has a $3.5 million player option with the Denver Nuggets this offseason, but can be a free agent. It's Russell Westbrook, 13.3 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, 6.1 assists per game, shooting 51.7% from 2, 32.3% from deep, and averaging 1.3 steals per game. Obviously not in the prime of his career, Stephen, and obviously a player who, if you look at the highlights and lowlights, there's a lot. What are your overall thoughts on Russell Westbrook, the player, in 2025?
Even at his worst, he finds ways to have impact. And I think a lot of the impact that he has starts in the locker room in multiple respects. There's a certain level of respect. He has reverence amongst the younger era of basketball players that came into the league after his MVP season with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's because his day-to-day approach. It's unique and different from Kevin Durant, but it's similar in characteristics because it's the ways in which he shows up and the ways that he kind of helps to. He's an older player in basketball terms, but he has a reach to the younger players that hits different with leadership. And I think we saw that in multiple instances recently with his stint with the Clippers, and even more so this past season with the Denver Nuggets. A lot of people said, why in the world would you go get Russell Westbrook? And then you see the numbers that he had when he was on the court with Nikola Jokic this past season in the regular season. And then you see the boost that he provided in moments where Murray and Porter Jr. and Gordon weren't showing up through the first round and some change.
Yeah. We have a lot of mixed opinions in the chat, and like I said, I knew it would be mixed. RTC says Westbrook would be hilariously bad. AZ Soldier 520 says yes. Russ brings heart and hustle. Omar Martinez says, love the idea of Russ's hustle on the squad. Nathan Cook said, getting too old, but would be pretty good. And Mario Not Bros 2 says, Westbrook coaster is not the one I'm ready to ride. We go from the Bowler coaster to the Westbrook coaster. And you mentioned one thing that when you look at Westbrook's stats this last season in Denver, you wonder how much of a bump did he get from playing with a player like Nikola Jokic, who a lot of their strengths would cover up the weaknesses of Russell Westbrook. And you look at a player like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and the stats that he had playing alongside Nikola Jokic, and then what happened when he left. You wonder, for Russell Westbrook going from a playmaking hub, maybe the best in the league, maybe one of the best of all time, not maybe, definitely one of the best of all time at playmaking, especially from the center position, as a guard like Russell Westbrook, to whoever the Suns are going to trot out at center, which even the best free agent options we've talked about, none of them are even going to be remotely close to a passing hub or someone you run your offense through. So you wonder just how good of the fit he would be on a Devin Booker-led team and a Devin Booker-centric offense, and how much his stats might regress if he's not playing in a system like Denver's.
Yeah, I hear that part, but he still found ways to have impact with the Clippers the season before last. And that was a completely different roster context. You go from a heliocentric Jokic hub, Jokic-led offense to the one before the season, this past season with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and James Harden and Ivica Zubac and Norman Powell. These are all names in terms of options that come way before his in terms of the scoring prowess and things like that. But he still found a way to have impact on that team as well. And I think Russ at this point in his career is a player that can just figure out how to have a role. Sometimes he's playing the 3 for teams. Sometimes he's playing the 2. He's not necessarily the traditional point guard, nor is he used as the defender that he once was either. Kind of finding ways to have more impact off the ball, being able to switch up and guard against bigger players in the post on mismatches and things like that. So I'm not as low as other people are. I'm not high on it by any means, but I'm also not nearly as low as some of the comments and some of what you can assume general perception about a Westbrook ad would be.
I would actually be fine with the Westbrook addition if this was a team that I felt like was ready to actually compete next year, and these were very selective spots. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What my thoughts on Russell Westbrook would be, I guess I wouldn't be a total negative because he still contributed in Denver and that worked out really well for him. But you talk about a team needing heart and hustle and determination and grit and somebody who shows up the same every single play. And that's why the Russell Westbrook coaster is so up and down, is because he only has one gear. He only has one mode. But it's not even a mode that the Suns had last season. And he, like you mentioned, is a different type of leader. And I think that he could impact the game in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that Russell Westbrook doesn't get credit for is that he has molded his game to the modern NBA in the best way that he possibly can. And being able to grab the rebounds and pass the ball like he's able to. And he's came up big in moments in the playoffs when he's been needed. Like he has been a clutch player for them as well. I would be all for this. Now, why would he leave Denver? It's a good question that Ryan asked in the chat. It's basically like the perfect situation for him, and he has a player option. What do you think would be a better situation? Do you think Phoenix would be better?
I don't know if I would say better, but there was some button of heads between him and David Adelman and Aaron Gordon.
Okay.
As they exited the playoffs by way of the now going to the finals, Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think if there was a reason why he would leave Denver, to answer that question in particular, that could potentially be it, especially as we get news that Denver is undoing their entire assistant coaching staff to obviously insulate David Adelman in particular. So there's a lot of change going on over there. Does David Adelman see him as a piece for the roster that he's trying to build? If not, then there's opportunity there. And everything that I just got done speaking to as far as what Russ would add would be a benefit. But the other thing we didn't mention, though, he can still get to the rim whenever he wants to. He's an elite, and I mean elite cutter. He's also a very good guard screener. He isn't necessarily going to pop like other guards like Grayson Allen would. But the short roll and being aggressive below the free throw line, he's still great with putting pressure on the rim. And that's the one complementary skill that we said outside of three-point shooting we would love to see around Devin Booker.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say he's a good three-point shooter, but he ain't scared.
Definitely.
And
not.
there is some value in that. We mentioned it even with Ryan Dunn this year, where it's, hey, just don't stop taking them, right? Russell Westbrook, never afraid to take them, but also willing to take a step back. Russ just has this awful, awful perception about him, and it's because of some of the lowlights and whatnot, but he would be a good fit, I think, next to Book. Is on the Suns roster, for other players that are under contract, who do you think could learn the most from Russ if he was signing here for a vet minimum? Who do you think would play the best with him? Like, is there a certain combination that you look at, it's like, that's why he would work well in Phoenix, that goes beyond Devin Booker?
Well, yeah, if Grayson Allen sticks around, having an elite rim pressure guy and someone that can play off of that, whether it be help or just the way that teams have to load up against Russ, Grayson would immensely benefit from playing next to Russ in a secondary unit. I think Devin Booker will also appreciate it because he gives some opportunity to play off the ball. Also allows for him, like I said, elite level rim pressure still to allow Devin Booker to play off of that too.
And Russ is going to guard on the perimeter. Similar positions that Book will be guarding.
Yes. I also think there would be immediate impact with the not so rookies anymore. And also Ryan Dunn. Just having another vet with a different set of experiences to communicate with them from. And I think he infuses confidence in people more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Vyacheslav, very sorry about that, says, as a Nuggets fan, without Russ, we would have lost against the Clippers. Yeah.
And I don't think the Nuggets win more than 2 games against Oklahoma City without Russ performing the ways in which he did in that series too.
Yeah, AZ Soldier 520 says, Russ with Dunn and Oso on the second unit can cause some havoc. Suns Digest says, maybe if Russ comes here, we can bring out that Wizards duo from years ago. The Phoenix Suns recreate, what was it, the 2022?
That's wild. Yeah.
What was it? Yeah, 2022?
Yep.
Washington Wizards?
It was after his Rockets stint.
Yeah, it's going to be very funny when at the end of Devin Booker's career, they list off all of the names that he played with. And if he plays with Russ, they're going to be like, oh, he played with Russ.
So many Hall of Famers.
Yeah, he played with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal scored 30 in back-to-back games.
Yeah,
I can't wait to argue with, like, the next generation of basketball fans about that.
Right now.
Devin Booker played against plumbers. Okay, any final thoughts on Westbrook before we go to another name that I want to highlight?
Yeah, for all the negativity that people like to speak to with Russ, that is a high-character dude. And he is going to be a positive to the locker room, largely because of the characteristics that he has that align with that in particular.
Yeah. That being said, everything I like about Russell Westbrook, there are negatives that
sure.
come with it. He will not be a perfect player. He's going to leave you scratching your head and pulling your hair out at certain points, especially over an 82-game season. But if this team does become scrappy and make it to the playoffs, having Russell Westbrook on the team, now starting and being a main contributor, not great.
Right.
Backup point guard, veteran minimum type player, which is what you'd be hoping to be signing him for. I think that you can't really do a lot better, and you can't just look at the box score, but 13, 6, and 4 is pretty damn good value for a veteran.
And I will say he is still who he was when he was the MVP. He might not necessarily have the same production level, but the same issues with turnovers, falling asleep off the ball at times on defense. That's just who he is. You can't get to the greatness of him without having these little lumps that you take with you.
Yeah. Hello says hello, and then now we'd be okay with Russ? ? LOL.
Who was never?
I mean, I think there was definitely a point where I wouldn't have wanted Russ on the iterations of this team that we were promised the last couple of years. So I was definitely against that. But yes, I think at this point where the Suns are now, Russ would fit in a lot better than I believe he would have before. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Ready to move on from Russell Westbrook? Another player who has high and low opinions of him and has been at the center of a lot of discourse, surprisingly, for a player, and I say this respectfully, of his level in the NBA, Dennis Schroder. Now, 3 teams last season, the Brooklyn Nets, the Golden State Warriors, and Noah's Detroit Pistons, also averaged 13 points per game, just like Russell Westbrook. He also averaged 2.6 per game on the rebounds, 5.4 assists per game, shot 45.8% from 2, 34.2% from deep, averaging just about 1 steal per game. Before we go to our thoughts about Dennis Schroder, why don't we go to the source? Noah, as a Detroit Pistons fan, what were your takeaways from who Dennis Schroder is as a player in 2025?
Well, I mean, when he got to the Pistons, it was exactly what we needed. He proved to be a lot better from 3 than I thought, and a lot more willing to take some pretty risky big-time shots when you had guys on the floor that potentially could take those shots for you, with Malik Beasley or Cade Cunningham. He's gritty. I like him a lot. I don't know if he fits into the Suns' context too well, like locker room wise, stuff of that nature. I know he does kind of butt heads sometimes with people, but I mean, I really enjoyed watching him play. So,
what would you say about Dennis Schroder in 2025?
I wouldn't be mad at it. Another spark plug that brings the energy that you mentioned with Russ that the Suns just didn't have last season. He has a motor that's not going to have ebbs and flows with the situation going on around him. He's going to be what he is. He's a gunner. And there's obviously things that you have to anticipate in terms of issues that might come up, but you can't get to the impact that he had in the first round for the Detroit Pistons, where he's arguably their best offensive player for multiple games in that series that they pushed to 7. You can't get to that positive without having the negatives that might come with it at times. And that's another veteran player, understands how to play with star players, understands how to operate on the court without a star player on the floor as well. Another player that can bring up the ball viably, put Devin Booker in positions to where he's playing to his traditional shooting guard traits and characteristics as well. And he's also a player that gets after at the point of attack. Never been shy about picking up players 94 feet. Might not be as effective as he was in his Atlanta days doing so, but he's still more than capable of doing that. Has a near 7-foot wingspan as a smaller guard, which is unheard of outside of the Rajon Rondo type of players. Like, he has a lot of characteristics that would be a literal spark for the Suns.
I know we haven't talked about all of them yet. Does he feel like he's at the top of your list and maybe out of the Suns' price range?
Yes. Yes and yes. At the top of the list and out of the Suns' price range.
Noah, you mentioned not maybe fitting in with the Suns' context in the locker room. I maybe look at that in a good light because he is very scrappy, very outspoken, like some are mentioning in chat. He is not afraid. I mean, we saw it in FIBA and the Olympics, and of course with even the Kevin Durant comments afterwards, which would maybe be interesting if KD does return. And there's another comment in the chat from Mo Martinez saying Schroder would be cool if some of the other guards go, since I feel like there's overlap. Well, just to remind everybody, Monte Morris is a free agent this summer. Tyus Jones is a free agent this summer. Colin Gillespie has not been signed by this team. You know, that is something that we have not really been talking about this summer. We were preaching the word of Gillespie, saying he needs to be signed before the end of the season. And then here we are sitting in May, Suns haven't played basketball for literally a month and a half at this point, and there's no news on Colin Gillespie, and you do wonder, is that somebody that they're not looking at fully wanting to retain? Because to me, that's the type of player that even before the next offseason starts, you sign him because he's in your system and he proved that he was good. So I am curious what's going on Colin Gillespie, but Dennis Schroder would be an upgrade over all the point guards that we had on our roster last year. And I do think that he's out of the price range, but maybe the Suns free up some money with some trades. And maybe they are looking to be more like a scrappy team, competitive team without having high expectations. And they can offer, maybe an MLE, right? And maybe Dennis Schroder wants to play in Phoenix and wants to play next to Devin Booker. That's one of the only paths that you could see for Schroder. But if they're able to grab him, I'd be a big fan.
Yeah, I think he gives you a lot of what maybe the best version of Colin Gillespie was last season, but gives you that in a sustained manner. I think maybe the best version of Colin ultimately would be someone that's close to the Schroder level at this point in his career. Maybe not quite a starting level guard, but someone that can play starting caliber minutes if he's hot and also can give you that spark in the playoffs. So those scrappy guards, you can't place a value on those guys. They're just invaluable. And needless to say, the Suns did not have that spark from that position, especially last season.
Yeah. Well, there are two other players that you want to bring to people's attention. I would definitely say smaller names, but could have just as big of an impact on the Suns. You have any final thoughts on Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroder before we take our first break?
Yeah, Dennis Schroder, in similar ways that Russell Westbrook has high-quality characteristic traits of his game on the court, but also the intangibles that help to infuse confidence and raise the floor for the other four players that are on the court with him. Willing to do whatever it takes on the ball, off the ball, not shy about taking charges, doing all of the nitty-gritty, dirty things that help to make a team be from good to really good. So he would raise the floor.
Agree. Nathan Cook says both of those are great fits. There are two other players that you think the Suns should be looking at to highlight in this free agent point guard class. Plus, we did get some coaching news from Gambo, so we'll bring that up after the break as well. Plus, we'll look at the rest of the free agent point guards you should keep your eye on. And again, we do have an announcement at the end of the show, so you want to stick around. We'll laugh and we'll cry together, all after this break. I'm guilty. I'm a Game Time fiend. I have been using Game Time like crazy lately, and it has saved me a lot of money and has allowed me to go to some awesome events. My wife is a fan of this True Crime podcast. They did a live event. I got the tickets through Game Time. Big fan of The Weeknd. Wanted to see him at State Farm Stadium. Went, got 2 tickets through Game Time. And of course, when the Suns were in season and I took a little vacation during it, I went to a Suns game with tickets from Game Time because they have Game Time picks that filters out the fluff. It makes it so easy to find the best deals with views from your seats, all-inclusive pricing so you don't get surprised by any fees when you check out, and so much more. Plus, if you find a lower price than what Game Time offers, they'll give you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Also, I guarantee that I love Bet365, not just because I won our betting competition during the season, but because the app is so easy to use. It's clear, it's concise, it looks good, it doesn't glitch. And of course, me and 90 million of my closest friends are all users of Bet365. Pioneer live in-game betting, early payout offers on the NBA and NHL. Plus, new customers right now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5, and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Woo! We got Sean back in the chat taking his #1 crown. Good for you, Sean. I'm in second place, still tying with 75. Oh, Martinez also tied with 75 in third, but we got a ton of contenders here. If you don't know what I'm talking about the community leaderboard that they're now keeping on YouTube. But if you are here on YouTube Live, hit that like button. If you're watching after the fact, hit that like button. And if you're listening on audio, 5-star reviews go a long way. It's a free agent Friday here, but that doesn't mean that we don't talk about breaking news in Phoenix Suns land. Stephen, according to Gambo, the Phoenix Suns have completed in-person interviews with Sean Sweeney, Jordan Ott, Johnny Bryant, and Chris Quinn. He adds Dave Bliss and the Thunder are still in the playoffs, so an in-person interview has not happened as of now. What you will notice Gambo did not mention is an in-person interview for David Fizdale, who yesterday, Mark J. Spears reported, was added to the list of finalists. But as of right now, we have not heard anything about an in-person interview. But Sweeney, Ott, Bryant, Quinn interviewed. Dave Bliss still to come. Does that mean that we're not going to get a decision on this until the season is over?
Well, I've always maintained they probably wouldn't get it until the end of the finals, and that's where things would start to spiral into tons of change, and a lot of the assumptions and a lot of the perceptions will get concrete evidence as to where they're headed and what they're kind of valuing going forward. So yeah, we might be until the end of the finals. Finals likely starting the early part of next week, if not by mid next week at the latest. And I think we'll maybe have one or two names that are not on this list that we just got done speaking to, but you go from a field of 6 to 4, that's still a nice bit of finalists involved that might take another week or two to get to a finalization there.
Yeah, we will keep you up to date right here, just like we did there. So hit that like button, stick around, hit that subscribe button. Steven, you've got a couple point guard names that you want the Suns to at least poke around and target in free agency. Who was the first name that came to your mind?
Yeah, first of which changed his number to 45, but was not Donovan Mitchell, who we spoke to at length yesterday. Davion Mitchell. And yes, I know hashtag size Twitter for Suns fans that say they don't want players that are below a certain height. I hear that. I understand that. But also, nasty at the point of attack. Plays a ton bigger, especially defensively, than his size suggests. And the activity and the specific role that he would play for this Suns team from the point of attack, in particular on defense, would be such a positive addition to everything that Ryan Dunn established in his rookie campaign, and would take a significant load off of his defensive responsibilities, that he will unlock a much better version of Ryan Dunn on the defensive end of the floor. And I think that the Suns just generally being able to set a better tone for their possessions by having someone that they can always rely on that's going to play with their own type of motor. They won't need external confidence breathed into them because they'll bring that at their foundation. Davion Mitchell brings all of that. I also think that in terms of context, if Chris Quinn is the one that ultimately gets the job for the Suns, I said the same thing about Haywood Highsmith when we talked about him about 3 to 4 weeks ago. I'll say the same thing about Davion Mitchell. Chris Quinn is likely to say that if there's any way we can get that guy for me to help build out my defensive process with, it starts at the point of attack, and those are two guys that will certainly help him in doing that.
Chat loves Davion Mitchell. A lot of people saying they've always wanted Davion Mitchell. No really concerns about the size. And if you watch Davion Mitchell play basketball, then that makes sense because almost him being smaller might give him an advantage in the way that he does 100%. Defend. And you have seen that with a lot of players across the NBA. Now, with Davion Mitchell, I do want to mention he's a restricted free agent, and Miami has his bird rights as well. That does scream somebody that Miami would most likely want to retain.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes, but you never know. You never know with these situations. And hypothetically, if we're talking about his fit on the Suns, I love it. Not as a starting point guard because you don't really want any of these players to be your starting point guard, but he would be hell to play alongside Ryan Dunn. He would help out Nick Richards so much. He'd help out Devin Booker so much. He would take on these tough defensive assignments. He would fit this culture that Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory have really been trying to nail down as the Phoenix Suns culture. So I'm not too worried. Some people are saying, developing him and whatnot. He's not super young anymore. He is what he is. And I think that he brings a valuable skill set to this team. Kaylee says he's fun-sized.
Yeah, Omar Martinez right above Kaylee said he's the player archetype where it's okay that he's fun-sized.
Yeah.
And to your point that you said, once I got done speaking, it benefits his archetype. It benefits his dynamic because to be an elite point of attack defender, you have to be comfortable navigating very tight quarters. And it's harder to do that when you have limbs like Mikal. That's what made him so unique at navigating screens and not being screened more often than not. Davion Mitchell, obviously a much smaller version
Yes.
of that, but has those exact same qualities, and a lot of that plays into his advantage. But also, we talked a lot about his defense. He grew a lot offensively, especially when he got to the Miami Heat. And it was his ability to take the unders that they give him in pick and roll to try to stop him from getting to the basket, just obliging and pulling up with the threes and knocking that shot down with confidence. And that's something that helped his points per possession with his pick and rolls that he led completely raise up from what it was from all of the seasons prior to last season. And I think that growth, in addition to obviously the defense that he provides, allows for you to build out some lineups, especially in the secondary fashion, to help bring him to the forefront to help your team, but also help everybody else because you can just play a much more aggressive style of defense with him at the point of attack.
Needless to say, if he was on this team last year, I'm not saying it would change.
They would have made the play-in. Because that's worth 2 or 3 wins where the defense was just completely
especially with the way that the Suns lost last season, and if they did a
lot
of
see
things,
what he did with Miami. Miami was a
play-in.
fringe play-in team when they got him as well, and they completely went to leading in the play-in.
Yeah. Do you think it's less likely that they get a player like him because he's a restricted free agent, or less likely to get a player like Schroder because of price tag?
I think it's less likely Davion, because Miami knows that whatever price they get coming in,
what do you
they
think
can
the
match.
price? What do you think he'll fetch? It's not a minimum. I'll tell you that.
It's definitely not a minimum. I can't remember what his contract was this season.
He was making $5 million this season,
and that's the literal number I was thinking about.
He made $5.2 million this season.
So he would probably get closer to 8 to 10, depending on what a match
and the
offer
MLE
is. The MLE is around there.
Around there, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just slightly below that, but obviously opportunity. It might be a 1-year deal where he proves it and then gets that going into the summer after next.
I think everybody's very high on Davion Mitchell. I think you nailed this one.
I think he undid a lot of the no's that existed with him prior to his Heat stint.
Yeah, and you never know. Maybe that's just Heat voodoo magic, right?
Could be.
You never
Might be
know.
a hashtag culture too.
Might be hashtag Davion Mitchell voodoo magic as well. This next name is one that producer Noah was not familiar with their game and has since now added him to the Alex Sarr Club of Losers. Is that right, Noah?
That's crazy.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
But you have never actually watched the next point guard play basketball,
no,
right?
I've seen him play. I just didn't know his name.
Okay. Who is it, Stephen?
Dalano Blanton from the Portland Trailblazers. So Dalano is not a player that's played a significant role on a winning team per se quite yet. So there is some dice roll dynamic to this. But I think it's low risk and high reward. Because
I would
he's
100% agree with that.
Exactly. Because he's not going to tax you literally or figuratively on the actual books. But he could also very much have a hit that far exceeds what his price tag might suggest. If he's in the right team context, then he's in the right role, and the fit is what it needs to be. And I think that the Suns could provide him with all three of those things. And I think that the Suns having a 6'9" point guard that can do things off the ball, as he showcased last season, while not losing the qualities and traits that he brings when he is on the ball, is everything. But that 6'9" frame with the almost 7-foot wingspan, I think it's 6'10", 6'11", really has its impact on defense. For everything we talked about benefiting Davion Mitchell with his smaller stature and screen navigation and being an elite point of attack guy, Banton is not necessarily elite or even at that level that Davion is, but he's a major positive on the defensive end at the point of attack in particular. You tandemize that screen navigation with a 6'9" and almost 7-foot frame, that is different, even more different than what Ryan Dunn poses at the point of attack.
I did not wake up today thinking I would say these words. But you got me. You got me fiending for Dalano Blanton, man. No, and honestly, he is one of the most fun, well-kept secrets in the league. Suns Digest, who also does Celtics Digest, says that he loves this fit. Says he has length, defensive hustle, and size to play alongside Booker. Can play make as well. Low value piece. Most likely third point guard or splits for backup. But if panned out, it's a major hit. And I do think the Suns will have an opportunity for a guard like that to really make an impact with how they're trying to be this season. The length is tantalizing. He's fearless when he plays as well. He gets to the rim. He's had some high point explosion outbursts on Portland. He scored 30 points in a single game. He has a lot of tools. Now, does he have the tools to be a mainstay starter in this league? Probably not.
Not
but,
yet, at least. Yeah.
You know, you don't know what he's going to demand, but I could very much see him go for a very low contract in the summer. And I'm not sure how much better young, good value you could get for that type of money than Dalano Blanton, especially for the type of guard the Suns need. Imagine a backcourt where the smallest person is Devin Booker instead of Devin Booker playing small forward. Yeah. Right. That is a lot more tantalizing as an archetype of a team with a player like Dalano Blanton, even if it's for 5 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And to your point, 11 games with 19 or more points. This is as a reserve for the Portland Trailblazers, like a third guard after Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson, et cetera, et cetera. Also had 23 games with 2 or more three-pointers made this season, which was one of the biggest shifts in terms of his player archetype and dynamics that left more to be desired. Everybody asked about the three-point shot off the dribble, but especially on catch and shoot. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those threes that I talked about him making came from that context. In addition to that, specific to his catch and shoots, this past season he had 167 attempts, 35.3%. That's above league average. That's what you're going to want and need from a player with that stature in the role that he's going to be playing.
Okay.
So that's off of Devin Booker, but also to put Devin Booker in position as well.
Now listen, I love me some Dalano Blanton, okay? There's a reason why he's not a starting point guard. 100%. What are your concerns with him as a player? What if it doesn't pan out? Why would that be?
Not being able to sustain the three-point shot for one. If his off-ball shooting is not where it needs to be and he's spending a lot of time with the primary ball handler, how does the defense treat him? Is he able to counter that? Is he able to find ways to have other impact on the game? And defensively, if he's not at the point of attack because the team just doesn't want him to be the person that's guarding the primary ball handler, what does his off-ball defense look like? And I feel like that's where some of the questions with his defense have come into question. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he falls asleep off the ball. He does provide good secondary rim protection given his stature and frame, but it's not nearly as consistent and impactful as you might desire for it to be. So rank it's all about consistency.
Rank the 4 that we've talked about.
As far as realistic?
As far as who you would want to see on the Suns. Let's take the money out of it. As far as best fit, what do you think your top 4 would be? And then we can figure in how likely it is the Suns get one of those 4.
Davion, Dennis, Russ, and Dalano.
So Dalano last. We talk all that about Dalano. He would still be last. Now, when you incorporate how gettable they might be, we mentioned Schroder most likely demanding a bigger contract. What is Westbrook going to try to do? Davion Mitchell, of course, a restricted free agent. Banton, an unrestricted free agent, but the least valuable. How would that shift your rankings?
Say that one more time.
I know, that was a lot. I was like, that was a lot. When you incorporate how likely it is the Suns were going to be able to get them, who would then? How would your order be?
So most likely it would be probably reverse.
Okay.
So the other 2 guys, Dennis has a team option, right?
Dennis he's an unrestricted free agent, but he made $12.7 million last year.
So price line it makes him less likely. Davion is least likely because he's a restricted free agent. Russ is a little less likely than Dalano because he can suggest a higher price tag, and Dalano is the most gettable. So my list for the top 4 that I would like to see flips. So it'll be Dalano, then Russ, and then Dennis, and then Davion very last.
Yeah. Sith Lord with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Sith Lord. Good to see you in here. Says, I joined late and thought you were describing Ben Simmons. Thank God I was wrong.
Not gonna lie, I thought about bringing up Ben Simmons.
I also thought about bringing up Ben Simmons.
We both talked about it last season when he was deemed tradable.
He is an unrestricted free agent, and there are a lot of other free agents that we haven't talked about. We're going to run through some notable names. I was planning on bringing up Ben Simmons, but there are other ones, including former Suns like Tyus Jones and Monte Morris and Colin Gillespie. Where do they fall into place with the Suns' search for another point guard? We're going to take you through that. Plus, again, we do have an announcement at the end of the show, so you're going to want to tune in after this break. Nowadays, you got to work hard for everything. You got to put a lot of effort in. Just nothing is easy, so it's so nice to have a checking account that works for you instead of you having to work so hard for it. And that's where Mountain America's My Style checking account comes in with perks just for you, and there are more than 1 million members that they have in over 100 branches throughout the West. We're talking restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offers on travel and events, and so much more. Mountain America America Credit Union has My Style checking accounts that is just better with built-in benefits. Make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits required. No cost registration and activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. But once again, make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Plus, make My Style your style with branded bills. I did record, like I said earlier today, from my home studio for the very first time. And of course, on my set is an Arizona State branded bills hat because I love to rep branded bills even when branded bills is on the wall. It doesn't even need to be on my head for me to rep branded bills. That's just how amazing it is and making your brand stand apart with performance and style. I'm talking snapbacks, truckers, fitted beanies, or tees. Branded bills has you covered on all of it. They have partnerships with fantastic schools, #1 in innovation type schools like Arizona State University. They do charity work with lowly universities like Arizona. And of course, they partner with lowly basketball teams like your Phoenix Suns. In fact, they're one of the only good things about the Phoenix Suns right now. Plus, they're a local company out of Mesa. We love supporting local, like all of you love supporting us. And head to brandonbills.com right now. Use code BBPHNX for 10% off your first order. Once again, head to brandonbills.com. Use code BBPHNX for 10% off your first order. So many of you hanging out with us on a Friday afternoon. Thank you all so much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're listening on audio. You're wonderful. You matter. You're worth it. Thank you. Okay.
The OGs.
The OGs. That's right. Listen, I love listening to my podcast on audio.
I still do. That's my preferred version.
Or is that like an Unk thing to do now?
I guess I would be approaching Unk territory.
How are you, like, give me like a percentage Unk. What percentage Unk are you?
I've always been called Young OG by OG, so that should probably lend itself to something around 85 to 90%.
Okay, so you're in the 85 to 90.
That's what I was going to say, 85%
to 90% Unk. Noah, how Unk am I?
15.
15, okay. So I got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, what about the cold open joke, though?
Yeah, that's like 100.
That's 100 Unk? Okay. Shout out Girth Jr. in the chat. Been MIA a little bit. Says been a while. Welcome back, Girth Jr. I don't know if you know this, but there is actually a Girth Jr. now. Gerald.
So you got to be like Junior
has a son.
Or
yeah. Maybe you need to name it to Goku the Third.
That might work too.
Okay. Other free agent point guards the Suns could pursue. Now, just to give you some of the highest earning names, club option or team option on Fred VanVleet, who was making $42.8 million this year. Player option for Kyrie Irving for $40 million. He's injured, so I would assume he's going to opt into that. Unrestricted free agent for Malcolm Brogdon, who's making $22 million. D'Angelo Russell, unrestricted $18 million. We mentioned Dennis Schroder. Chris Paul, we talked about before, is an unrestricted free agent, non-bird rights at $10.46 million. He's looking at probably a pay decrease. Trey Jones, unrestricted free agent. Gary Payton II, unrestricted free agent. Any other top-tier names that you feel like the Suns, either they can clear up cap space for or find a way to pursue in any sense?
Not top tier names from the names that we just mentioned. So I think you pretty much hit that one on the head.
Okay. Any other names beyond that? Maybe some other smaller names like Javon Carter, Corey Joseph, Kyle Lowry. Any other names that really stand out to you?
Yeah, we start with Monte Morris.
He would have been good on this team. Oh wait, he was.
Right.
Do you remember when he hit like 6 threes in like 2 minutes? That's so peak 2025 Suns.
That was very much I've been waiting for another opportunity, and this clip is getting unloaded to the tune of 6 threes. Yeah, that's very much what that was. Shout out Monte though for not being a team distraction in any capacity through all of that. That is not easy, especially considering when he signed the contract. I'm sure there were minutes that were pretty much said to be his. And then the context of the team shifts once opportunity with Tyus Jones, et cetera, comes into the picture. I think if a new coach came in and they see what Monte did in the minutes that he was playing with the Suns last season, he was a major positive.
Agreed.
For most of the season, I haven't checked it since the end of the season, but in non-garbage time minutes, he was their best in plus or minus. And that's not something to just kind of look over and just scoff at. Because considering the lows that this team hit, especially after the 8-1 start, and Monte's playing the majority of his minutes before Christmas, he was a hefty minute earner in there. He was highly impactful in that.
If Monte Morris was playing over Tyus Jones at the end of the season, I do think the Suns would be better. How much better? I'm not sure, but I do think they would be better.
Mhm.
Before we continue on point guards, Girth Jr. making a statement in the chat says, I made this account 4 years ago, so I'm the original Girth Jr. You know what? That's fair. I think you should fight Gerald's kid. Okay. Okay.
You got it.
I could keep talking about him, about Monte Morris, but we saw him. We talked a lot about him this season.
Especially non-garbage time, plus and minus. Hello.
What about another former Suns point guard on the brink of elimination with the New York Knicks, but got a win last night, but didn't play? Cameron Payne.
Of course, you brought up a lefty. If you know, you know. I think Cameron Payne would be fun for the vibe. I think Cameron Payne would be fun for the vibes.
Yeah.
Impact-wise, I think in terms of opportunity, he probably wouldn't find a better situation that will have minutes for him to stake some portion of a claim to, just off of signing a contract and then going about earning potentially more. That opportunity is likely there as well. I think he will be well received by fans as well, but I'm just not sure what his full impact can be in a sustained manner for a team that is not going to have that much money to spend elsewhere. I'm just not sure what that would look like.
Yeah.
And I think him naturally losing his minutes in this series for the Knicks after doing a good job helping them get to where they are kind of speaks to the pain roller coaster, if you will.
Andre in the chat was something that I'm thinking as well. Says Cam helps the locker room, but we need defense and size. Cam Payne feels like the type of signing if you are not taking next season super seriously and you just need somebody to bring good vibes that Devin Booker likes, that's going to, just kind of keep things afloat, then I'm okay with Cameron Payne. I'm not signing Cameron Payne for meaningful basketball games. Hello, or Fabio says, how about Knicks legend Landry Shamet? So crazy, man. So crazy.
Find out on next week's episode of Shooting Guard.
No, I can't do that, man. I can't. All respect to Landry Shamet, I can't do that. We did mention Ben Simmons. He is technically an option.
Yeah.
Is that somebody that you would want the Suns to at least take a look at?
I wouldn't be mad at it at all.
I got a soft spot for Ben Simmons.
Positional versatility.
Yeah, I've got a soft spot for him. He's not good.
He had impact for the Los Angeles
Clippers. But he's not good.
Yeah.
Like he's fine. But he's not good.
He's good enough to be a reserve.
Yeah, he's an NBA player.
Yes. And he can play 1,000,000,001 positions for your team as well.
Yeah.
And literally did that with the Los Angeles Clippers. Playing point guard for them on one end, and on the other end, guess who's guarding Nikola Jokic when Zubac has the rest?
Yeah.
Ben Simmons. Obviously, there's a floor and there's a ceiling that's only so much higher than the floor in that matchup, but to have someone that versatile that can flip some of the actions that he likes to run into switches gives you versatility that you need.
Yeah. Hello says that my goats are Gobert and Ben Simmons. I'm starting an all bricked layup team. Campaign point guard. Gobert and Simmons at the 4 and the 5. Who else? Who's the 2 and the 3 of the bricked layup squad?
Put Russ at 3.
At the 2. That's fair. But he puts on rim pressure, but he does miss some crazy ones. Yeah, and who's the 3 of the brick layup squad?
That's a good question. For left-handed threes, I can't think of a left-handed 3 off the top of my head.
Well, it doesn't have to be lefty.
Oh.
Not everybody on my team has to be lefty.
Well, I'm sorry.
I just realized that.
Kyle Anderson.
I was thinking about
Kyle
it.
Anderson
Technically, he is, though.
Westbrook? Yeah, but he shoots with his right hand. Okay, and we're not doing that.
So that's why I was.
We're not doing that anymore. I'm not talking about the brick squad. Okay.
Andre Roberson is a good shout.
Andre Roberson, yeah, but like current players, because I would also maybe go a little Tony Allen action at the end of his career. Also, an unrestricted free agent this year, another Knicks backup point guard who's seen some minutes, DeLon Wright. I like DeLon Wright.
Yeah. At his best, he was a very good point of attack defender. I think he's fallen from some grace a little bit as far as his level of play. I think that's why he's got moved around as much as he has the last couple of seasons as well. So, I mean, if you're talking about it's August, mid-September, and the Suns still have some money available and they need to address maybe a tertiary guard, I wouldn't be mad at a DeLon Wright signing at all.
Yeah, I like that. And you see that he can sometimes step up in big moments. You can't rely on him, but you can still see him play at least a little bit. Any other names? Jordan Goodwin, Markelle Fultz?
Yeah, shout out Goody. Goody had some great moments with the Lakers, especially when they were amidst trades and the roster was in flux. JJ Redick found great trust in him because he just does the little things and does them all the time. And if you're talking about role players and wanting to stake a claim of minutes in a rotation that's got some star-level names in there, that's the best way to go about doing it. And I think Goody had some great moments when he was with the Suns, to the surprise of many people. But if you watched him when he was with Russ and Bradley Beal, when he was with the I was about to say the Mystics, when he was with the Wizards, he had that same type of impact that suggested he could be an above average point of attack guy. So I wouldn't be mad at Goody returning. Dante Exum, what would you think about him?
I like him as a player. He's just always injured.
That's the issue, yeah.
But when he's on the court, he's an valuable role player and small piece on a good team. Good size for his position. He's developed his offensive game, so it's not a complete non-factor. Can play alongside a ball-dominant guard. But he just can't stay on the court.
Aaron Holiday.
Man, you were not you weren't here. I don't know if you were writing yet, but the Aaron Holiday love fest between Suns fans and him was just crazy. And I wouldn't say I don't get it, because I was also like, yeah, whenever this guy plays, he makes an impact. Again, not the type of player that you're signing to fix things, but I'm open for a minimum. You know, I wouldn't say he's the top of my list, but I wouldn't be angry about it. Never can get too many Holidays on your team.
Yeah, I think he had some good minutes with the Rockets this past season, in the regular season and in the playoffs as well.
Yeah. Jordan McLaughlin,
Malcolm
also.
Brogdon, I was going to mention.
If he's willing to take a pretty big pay, if you want to sign a minimum, I don't know if you can get a better value for a minimum than a Malcolm Brogdon. Still has the on-court issues as far as staying on it, but that's something. D'Angelo Russell, no thank you.
No.
Trey Jones is probably going to be going for more than what the Suns can offer, but I would still be interested in him.
Which, this is an IYKYK, but Shane looks a lot more right than he was prior to this season starting, as far as the Jones brothers go.
No, he said Trey was better than Tyus.
He did.
Tyus Jones is an unrestricted free agent.
He is.
Do you have any interest in Tyus Jones back on the Phoenix Suns next year in any capacity?
If he's in the right role, absolutely.
Well, I did ask Tyus Jones. We don't have the clip.
That would mean that they did their work to get a starting caliber point guard.
Well, so I did ask Tyus Jones at the Kyler Murray charity softball game if he was interested, and it was the very much classic, like, everything is on the table. I love my time in Phoenix, which, again, if you know, you know. If he is a legitimate backup point guard option on a minimum, then yeah, maybe. But overall, I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
Your team context has to shift if you
I know, but I just
like
still feel like we have to purge ourselves as much as possible, and I don't think he's good enough to the point that I would rather run that back.
I just don't think that his bad hits as bad as it was this season if the pieces around him and the roster in general is just built better.
I don't think anybody's bad is as bad if the roster was built better.
Then that in tandem with the positives that he did bring.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the three-point shooting in particular from the corners, he was one of the best corner three-point shooters in the entire NBA this season. And I think that's if you're talking about building out a roster around Devin Booker. If you have the defensive pieces with size and versatility that you should have, you can withstand having a player like Tyus Jones.
I hear you.
Because you can cover up for him.
I hear you. I think it's just being scarred. Right?
No, for sure. I hear that part.
You know what's funny is every single point guard on the Suns roster is a free agent this summer. Even the two-way guys. Ty Washington is a restricted free agent. Gillespie's restricted free agent, two-way contract. Of course, like we mentioned, Tyus Jones is a free agent. Monte Morris is a free agent. Everybody is a free agent who is a point guard on the Suns. Even Vasilij Micic is a team option for $8.1 million that I find it hard to believe the Suns are going to be picking that up. Final thoughts on point guards here as we wind down on a Friday fun day, free agent edition.
Intentional common theme with the two free agents that I decided to pick from, and that was point of attack defense. Feel like I've beat that drum, I beat a hole into that drum, but found a way to repair it and then continue to go on with the song that I'm trying to sing. You can't build a sustainable defense. I'm singing it now.
No, like sing it.
You can't build a sustainable defense without having a tone setter at the point of attack. If that person that's starting going up against whoever it is that's bringing the ball up the court can't stay in front of that person, your defense simply cannot be successful. By that same token, if that person can't apply pressure and force turnovers in some capacity, and the teams are getting shots on goal every single time, you're going to see yourself in a similar position as you were last season.
Yeah. Would we consider this the least important position for free agents on the Suns?
I wouldn't say least important, but it depends on who it is that you're targeting.
I'm not saying it's not important.
For sure.
But compared to wings and centers.
Yeah, but my thing is, though, with some of the wings that I'm looking at, if they're striking the point of attack accord in similar fashions that I'm trying to get at with a Banton potentially, or obviously even more so a Davion Mitchell, I would be okay with having a smaller guard if that guard is elite at that particular defensive archetype.
Yeah. Also, point guard would not be the least important position. That would be shooting guard.
Yes, correct.
Yes, but I think other than that, point guard is definitely on the bottom. This ain't Mike says.
For sure.
I just got here. Delano Blanton is the guy. I'm telling you, this dude is gifted and needs a shot. Would love that.
I'm trying to tell you, buy low.
Definitely.
Buy low. Low risk, high reward potential.
Definitely buy low. This ain't Mike. I think you'll love the beginning of this podcast again. We went through 4 highlight names of different values, different styles the Suns could target in free agency. Russell Westbrook, Dennis Schroder, Davion Mitchell, and Dalano Blanton. Plus, we talked about, of course, all the other names, the recent coaching news from Gambo. So if you're just joining us live, which there is a pretty big influx here at the end of this show on a Friday, make sure you go back and stay tuned in on PHNX Suns. We're going to talk a little playoffs, a little Eastern Conference Finals, and then we do have an announcement at the end of the show, so make sure that you stick around to the very end and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button. While you're here, Stephen, the New York Knicks, they picked up a win. They beat the Indiana Pacers at home, and now the series goes back to Indiana tomorrow, 5 p.m. tip. Haliburton and the Pacers have a 3-2 lead over the Knicks. What went right for the Knicks and wrong for the Pacers in Game 5?
Well, I think the urgency factor kind of came into play.
Would you say that's the first time all postseason that the Pacers got by that?
Which was about to be my very next point. They finally met a team that had their own resistance, that had some backbone, that wouldn't be allowed to be just pushed over, especially on their home court. New York stood up in ways that they're one of the many teams saying suggested they would, and they played to their home crowd and eventually were able to play off of their home crowd. Also, it doesn't hurt when you have other influences that are not on the basketball court. And I think we know what I'm getting to with that.
No, man. Expand. What do you mean?
The OG,
Landry Shaman.
The OG and Sonny Lee conversations are hilarious. No different than the Jordan Poole conversations when he was with the Warriors were as well. So yeah, fun opportunity for the Knicks. They got it done in front of their home team, their home court, in a way in which you mentioned they haven't necessarily been the best with in these playoffs. So what does that look like now when you go back to Indiana, where instead of playing to the series, Indiana's likely going to be playing to the game because they don't want to have to go back to
well, and that's kind of the thing now, where I don't think Indiana plays without that sense of urgency again tomorrow, because you're home, and this isn't up 3-1. This is the New York Knicks are awake, and the New York Knicks, if anybody, have been the team this entire postseason who punches back when they're down. Yeah. Being down 20 is also like being down 3-1. Like, they're still not going to give up. Jalen Brunson, his pregame viewing was our tier for stars to fit alongside Devin Booker. He played very mad. 32 points for Brunson, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 12 of 18 from the field, only took 4 free throws. So how about that for some discourse?
New York, you're welcome.
Tyrese Haliburton on the other end. Latest stinker, 8 points, 6 assists, 2 of 7 from the field in 32 minutes, a minus 23 on the night. But do we assume that the Pacers flush this and bounce back tomorrow and with full vigor?
Yeah, I think they go back and they look at the film. They find ways that they can navigate not going down 20. And I think that if they are able to figure out those things, and I think a lot of it stems from their defense more than anything else, they get back to that level that they were sustaining at pretty much since the All-Star break all the way up until game 4. I think they find themselves going into the finals for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, when is the last time Indiana made the finals? In 2000?
I was going to say it was either late 90s or super early 2000s.
Indiana Pacers finals.
Because I think Reggie was still on their last finals team.
2000, yeah. It was the only one time in their history. 2000, they lost to the Lakers in 6 games. They won 3 championships.
Yeah,
in the ABA.
that was the Kobe and Reggie back and forth. Yeah.
So is this just that Tyrese Haliburton needs to be better, and reporters need to stop making Pascal Siakam mad? type of deal.
The whole team needs to be better. I don't want to make it specific
Except for Benedict
to Hallie, but
Mathurin, man.
Ben was hooping.
Jeez.
Ben did his thing, especially in the third quarter. Dude was everywhere.
What was it, the most
everywhere.
efficient minutes in like NBA playoff history? Like 20 points in like 8 minutes?
Yeah, he was.
That's
he
crazy.
was getting after it for sure.
Yeah.
I imagine they get a multiplier with that, and they look more like the team that left Indiana up. What was it, 3-1?
Yeah, if you are watching on TV, the party always continues over at gophnx.com, which means it's time for overtime. Once again, we have an announcement coming up here shortly as we're wrapping up playoff talk. Make sure you hit that like button and get ready for an announcement. Okay. Yes, Tyrese Haliburton has to be better. The rest of the team has to be better. 3 points from Aaron Nesmith, 5 points from Miles Turner, 6 points from Andrew Nembhard.
Mm-hmm.
What is it for New York that they need to do to stay sustainable? Because they didn't get a crazy offensive explosion from McHale or OG or Mitchell Robinson, therefore, but they did go deep in the bench, and Josh Hart had 12.
Yeah, 24 from Karl Anthony Towns. He was the second best player on the court, second to his only his teammate, Jalen Brunson. If he's operating at that level, the Knicks will win this series.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable? Is he going to outplay Miles Turner? Is he going to be able to guard against the likes of Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam in the ways in which he did in Game 5? Those are kind of the questions that lie in the way of whether the Knicks will advance to the finals for the first time since the 90s, or if they'll be going home after Game 6.
How do you feel about these two potential teams against the Thunder? Who poses a bigger threat to what feels like a Thunder team that is just dominating on their way to a championship?
Yeah, it's definitely Indiana for me.
Okay. Not even close.
They don't have the holes that Oklahoma City could exploit or take advantage of. They don't have as many of those, and they don't have the ones in particular that the Knicks do. Poking at the front court, doing it against the Knicks front court is completely different than doing it against the Pacers front court.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the Knicks have a better crop of point of attack defenders, I think that as a team defense, I think the Indiana Pacers are better. So because of those things and their offense naturally being better as a team concept, I would err on them being a better matchup for the Thunder.
Because how does OKC take advantage of teams? It's taking advantage of your mistakes, right?
Yeah, you gotta force turnovers,
forcing
things
turnovers,
like
and playing fast off of those turnovers. And Indiana is a team that can match that. Hallie versus SGA would be fun, but at the same time with New York, I mean, they've got some things that Indiana can't put out there against OKC, and I think that would be an interesting series as well. I'm pretty sure I took OKC to win the championship in my preseason predictions. If not, I took them to make the finals. I stand by that. I believe that they are going to win the championship, and I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. I think there'll be good games, but maybe 5 or 6 games for OKC, of course, as that series goes on. We'll let you all know what we think and what's going on there. And like we mentioned earlier, Gambo reporting coaching finalists rounding up for the Phoenix Suns, that there have been in-person interviews with Sean Sweeney, Jordan Ott, Johnny Bryant, and Chris Quinn. Dave Bliss and the Thunder have not had his in-person interview because they, of course, are still in the playoffs. So something to watch for this NBA Finals is you could be seeing the future Phoenix Suns head coach being an assistant coach with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So something to keep an eye on. Final thoughts on anything basketball related before we get to our announcement, Stephen?
Enjoy it. There's a ton of high-level basketball being played at some of the highest stakes that are available at this time of year in the season. You don't get to this point with these teams playing this well without all of the things they had to go through prior in the past 6 months. So enjoy what they're doing in the moment, and this finals is about to be another fun one.
Would you say Indiana's on a fluke run?
No, it's definitely not a fluke to me. I think last season the element of surprise was working in favor of most people's train of thought. But if you looked at what they were doing and how they shifted things, that's how they got to where they are now. They took that same reason that got them to where they were last season, quadrupled down, and now they're looking like a formidable finals team.
Yeah. I think if Tyrese Haliburton's healthy, we're talking about a top 3 seed in the East during the regular season. So I don't think that this is a fluke run from them at all. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. I have stalled long enough. It is time to announce some things with the show. I'm going to give the floor to Noah because Noah has something to say.
Hello.
Hi, Noah.
Hi. My announcement is that I am leaving the show because Be Calm, See Clearly and I are eloping. We are taking our honeymoon to Cancun with all the rest of the NBA. We are going to have a wonderful time. It's been a great run. Be calm, see clearly, and I. You haven't seen him in the chat because he's actually right next to me. What's up? Be calm. Say hi. Hey guys, how's it going? But yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay. I can't even do the joke thing anymore. So that might have been funny, but yes, Noah is actually leaving the show. We've had some things shift around here at PHNX Sports. He is not leaving PHNX Sports. We cannot lose a talent like Noah. Noah will be going and producing the Cardinals show from now on. We're very excited to introduce to you all our new producer that we will keep a secret until Monday. Noah did such a fantastic job here from the moment that he got hired. He is the most talented graphics person I've ever met in my entire life, has made such incredible thumbnails and has been an integral part of this show, not just technically speaking, but we talk about culture guys, locker room guys, you know,
He's a
actually
glue
being
guy.
on the show. Like he is a glue guy, and not just because he eats it.
I was just about to say, literally a guy that eats.
Yeah, no, but Steven, you know, we're big fans of Noah over
Yeah.
here, and he's gonna do some wonderful things over on the Cardinal show.
For sure. He's going to take care of them well. The product is going to be what it has been and continue to sustain on that level. And good luck to you with your future endeavors, Noah. Don't forget to come say hi to us.
Yeah, don't forget us over
mere
here.
mortals
I'll be
over
around.
here, you know?
I'll be around.
You know?
Just
Don't
remember,
worry about
I know where you work.
Don't
man.
forget where you came from, my guy.
Yeah, and by the way, we've got about 15 shorts that we need you to get out tonight.
Yeah.
And this show will never end, and you can never go start over there. We are going to do one last thing here in honor of Noah. He has done so many great, very respectable things in his time here as Suns producer, and he's also done some that are just downright hilarious and maybe dishonorable. So we're going to go through Noah's greatest hits. Noah, I want you to narrate where these ideas came from and what they're about.
All right, we're gonna start here with something light. Torrey Craig coming back home as LeBron James. Thought that was a good one.
I want to return to the Phoenix Suns for a third time. Phoenix spelled wrong, by the way.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't know how to spell. Poor Torrey. Gary Payton, our player enragement coach. I can't remember. There was something with.
Yeah, he was talking crap to Katie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I think this one's just the classic.
Suns
Bang.
suck in just bold letters.
Yep, there's a good one. Christmas time.
Luca ho ho ho.
Something. I think this
That's
was
good, dude. That's a good little graphic right there.
That was an Espo. I think that was an Espo.
You and
request.
Espo's brains combined is scary.
Yeah, we got Nutter Butter here.
Oh,
Or
Jimmy
Nutter
Butler.
Butler.
Oh,
yeah.
because I completely flopped an intro, right?
Yeah.
I think I called him Jimmy Nutter.
Yeah, it definitely
Crazy.
was. It definitely was Jimmy Nutter.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
There's the Suns
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Sun going through the Titanic.
Yeah, yep. Which, in retrospect, it makes it seem like the Suns did something good.
No, the Suns are trying to escape from the Titanic, but they just can't.
Here we go. Here's the ghost.
This is one of the
Oh,
first ones he ever
man.
did. Please describe this for the people on audio.
Yeah, so this is a picture with 5 NBA players on it, goats in big bold lettering. We got Kobe, we got LeBron, we got MJ, and then we got Brian Scalabrine and Bol Bol. And I actually did this before Bol Bol went off, so technically, I was kind of right.
And Bol is the one player that's in the middle of these 5 players.
He
you just
is
named.
the front and
Square
center guy.
in the middle.
The front and center
Yeah,
guy.
I mean, how could you not?
Oh,
And
we're just warming up here, Noah. aren't
absolute legend. Here's
we? Done shall not
Mike
play.
Budenholzer. Gosh,
These are great.
yeah, that was a good one.
If you're on audio, I highly recommend just watching at least the end of this.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, my favorite, Alex R. McDonald's special. Guy should not be in the NBA. Not good
He
enough.
definitely should. He's definitely pretty good.
Him and what's his name? Delano.
Delano Blanton.
Delano
Oh, yeah,
Blanton.
Did they start
Yeah.
a fast food chain together?
Yeah, call it mid players.
Espo, don't worry about it. That one's making the cut.
Here's a good one too. Here's a little deep fried
Dude,
Steven,
look at
Eric.
I know I'm
Espo,
deep
and
fried, but
Gerald.
look at my hair, man. Look at the hair.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that spiky hair.
After all that, sorry, I just can't help myself.
That was crazy.
And then classic,
The left hand.
I already made an appearance
Bar
5
none.
times this episode.
Bar none, the worst picture of me ever taken in my entire life.
It's so good.
It's such a bad picture, dude.
I snuck around the corner.
I remember
and
what
just-
you did.
Yeah,
It's such a bad picture,
that's a
dude.
good one. And since
Also, it's so funny how much paler I am than Grayson Allen.
and just because we roasted you doesn't mean we can't also roast Steven. We got Booger Boy.
Booger Boy, the album. That's a crisp album cover, man.
It is.
That
I
is-
really
that
think
is
you should drop
looking
the EP.
pretty clean.
The people are waiting.
I
The
love
people
how
are
it's the
waiting
parental
on it.
advisory sticker, and I think you pointed this out when Noah first made this, but you don't curse.
No, that's wild.
Booger Boy.
Yeah,
Booger Boy's
Booger
crazy.
Boy. We got Jordy Beal.
No,
No,
Jordy
it's
Beal's
just
gone.
It's beard, but we all know Jordy. Whoa,
Whoa. What's going on here?
how'd I get there?
What is happening?
What the?
They wanted to show you on the
Yeah.
screen.
I guess so. That was weird.
I mean, no better way than that to end it.
We got one more. Actually,
I
two
thought
more.
we had 2 more.
2 more. We got this one, which is pretty ironic.
Yeah. Cardinals first round draft pick, producer Noah. Noah, I think we're going to save your last one for the outro and do it right before the final video. So we'll do a little outro here, and then we'll end on what might be your coup de grace, your crowning achievement, something you'll never top over on PHNX Cardinals.
Hello.
Maybe the greatest thing we have ever produced here. We'll be playing that after, of course. I remind everybody that you can continue to follow the show at PHNX_Suns. Again, we have a lot of content coming out for you. Steven and I recorded a trending podcast earlier this week on how the Suns can take advantage of a wild NBA offseason. That is up for you on audio and on YouTube. On the Mercury side of things, Steven just had a film breakdown on Alyssa Thomas's savant-level playmaking. And, of course, if you are not tapped in with the Mercury, we highly, highly encourage you to do so. I have a home studio now that I set up. I'm very proud of it, and I want you all to go check that out. Also on PHNX Sports, I talked this morning about the weirdness surrounding the Suns coaching search and everything going on with the reports, and of course, we learned a little bit more about that today, but highly encourage you to go check that out as well. Become a diehard today, just $36. That is our final day of our summer sale for an intro offer. Get all the things that we mentioned before, including access to our diehard Discord for a very, very cheap price. Oh, Martinez says, where's Cutesy Legs? He's right here. There is no graphic for it, though. And you can follow him at StevenPG3. Don't call him Steve, because Steven is with a PH. Of course, you can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. And for the last time, we thank Noah behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen.
Thanks, y'all.
And don't worry, somebody else will read Be Calm, See Clearly super chats. But until next time, Noah, it's party time.
PHNX party time, yeah. Oh yeah, excellent. Go Suns, party time, yeah. Kevin Durant, yeah. Devin Booker. Oh yeah, party time, excellent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. PHNX, SPG, yeah. Espo, yeah. Ruby, yeah. Okay, yeah. Party time.
We all silly like the mayor.